The thing nobody tells you about the woods at night is how far sound travels. You can hear a branch go a quarter-mile away like it's behind you, and your brain, which spent 200,000 years learning this exact skill, will tell you every single time, that was nothing. That was a deer. Your brain is right about that, maybe 999 times out of 1,000. Welcome back to Vespertine. 3 stories tonight from people who went out into the trees. Here we go. There were 6 of us. I counted 6 people around that fire for about an hour before I understood that we had only brought 5. We did this trip every October. Same 5 of us since university. Me, Danny, Priya, Tom, and Tom's brother, Alex. Same spot. A walk-in site about 2 hours from the nearest road. No phone signal, which was the whole point. And I want to establish something before I tell you the rest. We were not drinking. That's always the first question. We had 2 beers between 5 of us because it was a long walk in and beer is heavy. Nobody was on anything. We were 4 accountants and a school teacher in our 30s. So it got dark at about 6, and we did what we always did, which is sit around the fire and talk rubbish. And at some point, I genuinely could not tell you when, there were 6 of us. Here's what I need you to understand about how that works, because I've had this argument with people for years. You don't count your friends. You've never in your life sat down with people you've known for 15 years and counted them. There's just a shape to a group. There's a circle of faces, and it's your circle. The extra one was sitting between Priya and Tom, slightly back from the fire, where the light doesn't really reach. And that's normal. Somebody's always in the dark bit, the logs in a horseshoe. I noticed because of the tents. I got up to get another layer, and I walked past our tents, and I counted them because I was looking for mine in the dark. 3 tents. And 3 tents is right. Danny and me, Tom and Alex, Priya on her own. 5 people, 3 tents. And I turned around and I looked back at the fire, and I counted 6 people. I want to tell you I said something immediately. I didn't. I stood in the dark for probably a full minute, and I counted them over and over, and I did the maths about 5 times, and the maths kept being wrong. So I came back and I sat down and I said, and I'm proud of this actually, because it was the right question. I said, "Who's your mate, Tom?" And Tom said, "What mate?" And everybody looked at the space between Priya and Tom, and there was a person in it. He was sitting on the log. He had a coat on. He had his hands together like he was warming them. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't lurking. He was just sitting with us in our circle in the dark bit, and he had presumably been sitting there for an hour listening to us talk about Tom's divorce. Nobody screamed. I want to be really honest about that, because in films, everyone screams. 5 adults just went completely quiet, all at once, and the fire kept crackling, and nobody moved for what felt like a very long time. And then Priya said, "Hi?" And he didn't answer. He didn't turn his head. He didn't do anything at all. And Alex is the youngest and the least patient. Alex stood up and turned his torch on and pointed it at him. There was nobody there. I have gone through every possible version of this. I've considered that we were tired. I've considered a shared thing, a mass suggestion, 5 people spooking each other. But the order's wrong. I saw him before anybody said a word. I did the counting alone, in the dark, by the tents. And I came back with a question that was already an accusation. And 4 people turned and looked at the same empty piece of log, and every single one of them saw the same man sitting on it. We went in the tents. All 5 of us in 2 tents, nobody in Priya's. And nothing happened all night. Nothing. It was completely silent, which I've since decided was worse. The bit that actually ruined it was the morning. Danny had a trail camera. He put it up on a tree the year before to get foxes, and it was still there, and it had been running all night. There were about 40 pictures. Most of them were us, at the fire, and you can see the whole group, and there are 5 of us. 5, all night, every picture. Nothing in that gap on the log. Except the last one, at 4 in the morning, hours after we'd all gone to bed. And it's a picture of the tents, and there's a man standing next to Priya's empty tent with his hands at his sides, looking at the camera. Not at the tents, at the camera. He knew exactly where it was. We packed up and we walked out in about a third of the normal time. And in the fire pit, there were footprints in the ash, more than 5 people's worth, and one set that came right up to the fire and didn't go away again. They just stopped. We never went back. And I want to say we stopped being friends over it because that would be a neater story. But we didn't. We just don't talk about it. 15 years, and it has never once come up, and I know for a fact that all 4 of them remember because none of us has ever suggested going camping again. That site's still there. It's popular. There'll be a group at that fire tonight, and I hope somebody counts. It called me from the trees in my best friend's voice, and I nearly went because it sounded exactly like him. Except it used my full name, and Rob has never once in 20 years called me by my full name. 2 of us, me and Rob. Just a weekend, nothing serious, a site by a river about 40 minutes walk from the car. Rob went to bed early because Rob always goes to bed early. He's the only person I know who takes a proper pillow camping. And I stayed up with the fire because that's my whole thing. I like sitting with a fire. It was about 11:30 when I heard my name from the trees. Off to the left, maybe 40, 50 meters, past where the light went. And there was Rob's voice. It was absolutely, completely Rob's voice. The register, the accent, the way he goes up at the end. And it said my full name, first name and surname. And that stopped me. Not because it was scary, because it was wrong, in an admin sort of way, like getting a letter addressed to someone else. Rob calls me by a nickname. He has called me by that nickname since we were 19. He wouldn't know how to say my surname. It'd be like him doing an impression. So I said, "Rob?" And it said my full name again. Exactly the same intonation, same speed. Not a reply, a repeat. And that's when the back of my neck went, because that's not how people talk. When you say someone's name and they say, "Yeah," and you say it again, you say it differently the second time. You go up, you get annoyed. It's a conversation. This was a recording. I got up and I went to the tent and I unzipped it, and Rob was asleep. Properly asleep, on his back, with his stupid pillow, making the noise he makes. He'd been asleep for 2 hours. I stood there holding the tent open with my heart going, and out in the trees, my name again. And Rob didn't wake up. That's the other thing. It was loud enough that I heard it clear as anything from 40 meters, and the man 3 feet from me did not stir. I got the torch, and I pointed it at the trees, and there was a shape. And I have to be careful, because a torch in woods at night gives you 100 shapes. Every trunk is a person for a second. But this one was between 2 trees, and it was upright, and it was the right size, and when the light hit it, it didn't do what a tree does. It stepped back, slowly, out of the beam, like it didn't want to be lit. And here's the part I'm not proud of. I nearly went. I want you to know that. I stood there with a torch and I felt the pull of it, because some part of my brain had decided it was Rob, and Rob was out there, and Rob needed me, even though I had my hand on the actual Rob's tent at the time. That's what I think that thing does. I don't think it wanted to scare me. I think it wanted me to come. What broke it was that it got greedy. It said my name again, and this time it did the voice slightly wrong. It was a bit too slow. It stretched the middle, like it was pleased with itself, like it was trying harder. And that fixed me, and I zipped the tent up from the inside, and I woke Rob up with my hand over his mouth, which he has never forgiven me for. He didn't believe me. He was decent about it, but he didn't believe me. You could see him doing the sums, working out how many beers I'd had, which was 1. And then, at about 1 in the morning, it came up to the tent. We heard it walk. 2 people lying dead still in the dark, listening to something come across the sight, and it wasn't sneaking. It walked normally. And then it touched the tent. Not clawed, not scratched. It put a hand flat on the fabric next to my head and held it there. I could see the shape of it pushing in. And it said Rob's name, in my voice. And that's when Rob believed me. We sat up till it got light, back to back, holding a torch and a tent peg respectively. And it went away at some point, and we didn't hear it go. We walked out at first light, 40 minutes in about 15. There were prints around the tent in the mud. Bare feet. That's what everybody wants me to say, and I wish I could give you something better, but they were bare feet, human-shaped, going right round the tent about 6 times in a circle, and then off toward the trees. Rob doesn't talk about it. I do, obviously. I'm on here talking about it. But here's the thing I actually want to leave you with. About 4 years later, a bloke I'd never met told me a story at a pub about a walk he did up that same valley and how his mate called him from the trees. Hello? And I said, "Did it use your full name?" And he went white. So it's still there. It's still learning voices. And it's very good at it. It's just not very good at knowing which name we'd actually use. The first night, it was at the tree line. The second night, it was halfway across the grass. The third night, it was on the porch. And on the 4th morning, the door was open, and neither of us had opened it. My wife and I rented a cabin for a week. Anniversary. It was one of those places that's deliberately remote. No Wi-Fi. That's the selling point. That's why it costs what it costs. Nearest anything was about 11 miles. There was a clearing around it, maybe 60 meters of grass, and then the trees started. A proper hard line where somebody had cut it back decades ago. You could see the whole tree line from the porch. First night, we were on the porch with a drink, and my wife said, "There's someone at the trees." And there was. Right at the edge, in that gap where the trunks start, a person-shaped bit of dark, standing still. And honestly, we weren't scared. That's the truth. It was 7 in the evening. It's the countryside. There are farmers, there are walkers, there are people with dogs. I waved. I actually waved at it. It didn't wave back, and we went inside and had dinner and didn't think about it. Second night, it was in the grass. Maybe halfway, 30 meters out. Same shape, same stillness, standing in the open in the middle of a field. And that's a different thing, isn't it? A person at the tree line is a walker. A person standing in the middle of your grass at 9 at night is not. I went out on the porch and I did the shout. You know the shout. "Can I help you, mate?" With the edge on it. And nothing. No movement, no answer. And it was too dark to see a face. The light from the cabin got about 10 meters and then it gave up. And my wife said, "Come inside." So I came inside. And I locked the door, which I had not done the night before because it was that kind of place. Third night, it was on the porch. Not at the door. On the porch, at the far end, by the rail. Standing. We could see it through the window, side on, about 15 feet from where we were sitting with a fire going. And here's the bit I can't make people understand. We didn't run. There wasn't anywhere to run to. 11 miles of forest track in the dark. In a car, we'd have to walk past it to get to. So we turned the lights off, and we sat on the floor of a rented cabin in the dark, two adults in our 40s, and we watched a shape stand on the porch for 4 hours. It never came to the door. It never tried the handle. I watched that handle so hard I can still see it. At about 3 in the morning, we heard something on the roof. Not footsteps, more like a hand dragging once across the shingles above us. And then nothing. And at some point, we fell asleep, which sounds impossible and isn't. You can't be terrified for 9 hours. Your body just gives up and clocks out. We woke up at 6 with the light coming in on the floor, and the front door was open. Wide open. Not blown open. The latch was up. And nothing was taken, and nothing was moved, and nobody was in that cabin but us. And the fire had gone out, and there was dew on the boards inside the doorway. We packed in about 10 minutes, and I checked the grass on the way to the car, and there were no footprints. In dew. 60 meters of wet grass at 6 in the morning, and the only tracks on it were ours going to the car. But there was a line of prints going the other way, from the porch straight across the grass to the tree line. Just one set, going away. So it left after we woke up, or it left when we woke up. I did the thing you're not supposed to do, and I looked the place up when we got home. And there was one thing from 1980-something about a group who camped in that valley, and 2 of them didn't come out, and the report says they searched for 11 days. There's a line in the news piece where a search coordinator says they found the camp intact, food out, tents up, boots still in the tents. Boots still in the tents. Whoever left that camp left it barefoot. And that's it. That's my ending. And I know it isn't one. We never got an explanation. We never got a threat either, and I've thought about that more than anything. It came closer every night, 4 nights in a row, in exact, patient stages, and the one thing it never did was hurry. I don't think it was hunting us. I think it was arriving. That cabin's still on the website. 600 a week. Great reviews. That's 3. And if you're going out in the trees this weekend, I'm not telling you not to. I like the woods. I'd just say, count your friends, don't answer your name, and if something's standing at the tree line, don't wave. If you've got one of these, put it in the comments. I read all of them. Sleep well, if you can.